So today, super interesting stuff. We're going to look at children of Prasuti and Daksha. So what we are looking at is genealogy of Shatarupa and Manu. So those are the people who are the first beings able to do biological sexual reproduction. First in the universe. And then we followed their family tree. They had 3 daughters, 2 sons. 3 daughters were Devahuti, Prasuti, and Akuti. So we heard a lot about Akuti's children, and then we heard a lot about Devahuti's daughters. Now Prasuti. Prasuti is the most prolific. Hence the name Prasuti, which means she brings forth children. So, let's begin. Maitreya says, previously we only briefly alluded to the many and varied offspring of Brahma's son Daksha and Manu's daughter Prasuti. Now we will describe them properly. Prasuti, wow, they're all daughters. Prasuti gave Daksha 16 pure-eyed daughters. Pure-eyed. Interesting phrase. That means that the way they see the world is purity, is through purity. So Prasuti gave Daksha 16 pure-eyed daughters who personified the 16 qualities of sattva. So by learning who these 16 daughters are, you'll learn what the qualities are of sattva guna. So these are things that you would want to emulate to improve your life. And the first 13 of the 16 married Dharma. Dharma is morality. So the first, and then the other 3 married these other important gods. So 13 of these girls are attracted to Dharma. Dharma means morality. I think there's 16. So what you're going to learn is 16 qualities of sattva and 13 qualities of dharma. 13 qualities of clear or pure. Let's call sattva purity for the sake of a simple English word. 16 qualities of purity and 13 qualities of morality. We'll use morality to translate dharma. So we'll learn what it means to be moral and pure. So here are the first 13 daughters in a certain order, in a culminating order. So the first daughter's name is Shraddha. You know this word already. Wait, we're getting questions. Abhishek says, they couldn't have karma. Why do you think they couldn't have karma? Because they're born early in the universe. They didn't have previous lives. Don't you remember? The universe is cyclically manifested and unmanifested eternally. The beings who go into the unmanifest state but still have their ego, still retain karma, and they come out of the unmanifest state with their karma. I hate that. So the first daughter's name is Shraddha. You know the word Shraddha. Shraddha means heart, and Dha means give. So this is the first quality of morality, is that you are empathetic. To be empathetic is the basic quality of morals. You won't be able to get anything else right about morality if you're not empathetic. Empathetic means you could put yourself in the other person's shoes. You could feel what the other person is feeling. If you can feel what another person is feeling, then you probably won't treat people wrong, because you'll feel pain by causing other people pain. So the fundamental basis for morality is Shraddha, to be able to put your heart in somebody else's place, to feel for somebody. Shraddha, to feel for it. To have empathy or feeling, to be feeling. Hello, Waylon. Shraddha means faith, but we went over this yesterday. Why? Because Shraddha, I forget. Shraddha also came up somewhere else recently. Faith is a bit of a connotation of Shraddha. Shraddha means heart and Da means to give. So the thing that you feel for is what you have Shraddha for, the place where your heart goes. So it's called faith because it's what you think is going to fulfill your desire. This is where you put your Shraddha. You'll trust in something. You're giving your heart to something. So it implies trust and faith. But as the basis for morality, it's the complete sense of the word is empathy. Shraddha, to be able to feel. Put your heart someplace else. To give your heart. To give your heart is the basis of morality. Trust. Trust is maybe a derived principle from that. The next daughter is Maitri. Does anybody know what Maitri means? Mitra? Mitra is love, and especially friendship. Togetherness, unity. That's Mitra. So this is the second quality of morality. It's based on Shraddha. When you can feel for another person, then you're going to feel the same as them. You're not going to feel different from them. You're not going to put them on a different team. They're going to seem like they're on your team because you feel what they're feeling. They're going to seem like you. So that's the basis for friendliness. It means sameness, means being together, being on the same side. So the second principle of morality is to be friendly, which doesn't just mean walking around with a smile and everything. It's not that it excludes walking around with a smile, but it means being on the same side with people. So having sympathy or empathy with people leads to being friendly with them. Now, the third daughter is Daya. So Shraddha, Maitri, Daya. Daya. Daya, I bet you a lot of you guys know, probably Libra Evolution, you probably know this word, Daya. It's in the famous bhajan, Dina Dayal, or Dayavak. Or there's a lot of this word around. Daya means compassion. Jivadaya. So this is the third evolution of morality. The first thing is just Shraddha, where you can put yourself in somebody else's place. You have empathy to them. The empathy results in friendship or sameness, togetherness, and that results in compassion. So compassion. So what is compassion? Compassion means your passion is with their passion. Com means together, and passion means your desires. So compassion means that you will actually want people to benefit. So the third quality of morality is that you desire the welfare of other beings. The first quality is that you feel for other people. The second quality is that therefore you come close to other people. You don't separate yourself from them. The third quality is that you actually want to act. You actually want or desire their well-being, their improvement, their upliftment. The fourth quality is Shanti. Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, Shanti. Shanti is peacefulness, which means neutrality. It means the cessation of one's own urges. Shanti is the peace, but it doesn't really mean like no war. Peace means, it does imply no war, but because of this. Shanti is peace. Peace means when you're not agitated or irritated or aggravated, stimulated, then you become calm. And when you're not aggravated, irritated, stimulated, provoked, then you don't try to take things. And when you don't try to take things, you don't get into conflict, so there's not going to be war. The symptom of peace is no war, but the actual basis of peace is no selfishness. So there's the fourth stage of morality. After you can start to feel for other people, then you'll feel closer with them. Then you'll actually feel some sense of what they want, you also want. And then the fourth stage is you stop really caring about what you want. And it becomes more important what they want. So that stage where you don't really feel disturbed by your needs is called neutrality or shanti. Okay? This is the first 4 stages of morality. As you can see, I doubt if 3 out of 10 people on the block are even at the first stage. And I doubt if 2 are even at the second stage. And I doubt if 1 is even at the third stage. And I doubt if 1 in 100 people these days is even at the 4th stage of morality. The 5th stage is tushti. You also know this word. This was the first son of Akuti and Ruchi. It was also called tosha. Same word. This means satisfying. So the 5th quality of now begins action, or the impetus to action. You want to make other people happy. That's the 5th quality of morality, tushti. 6th quality is pushti. Not just make them happy now, but make them happy for as long as possible. Pushti. Push means to nourish. Tusht is to satisfy, and push is to nourish. Tishya, Pushya. Now you see, the nakshatra Pushya used to be called Tishya. Now it's called Pushya. Tishya is the stage of satisfaction, and Pushya is the stage of nourishment. So that's the 5th and 6th stage of Dharma, where your efforts begin to be dedicated to the world, and you start to be satisfying to people. You bring people happiness, and beyond, at the 6th stage, you actually bring people nourishment, which means happiness in a longer term. It's not, you don't really need to be in the UN, you need the Bhagavatam in the UN. Then the 7th thing is Kriya. The 7th stage or evolution of morality is Kriya. So now Kriya means, remember, it's Kriya. That's one of the daughters' names, Kriya and Kratu. They got married and they had the 64 Valayakas, the 60,000 Valayakas. Kriya means action. Kratu means reason. So here Kriya means action. So now you actually your actions, you become active. So this is the stage of like philanthropic action. That's another principle of morality, is that it's up till the 6th stage, it's kind of incidental how you affect the world. It's more emotional in how you're feeling. But at the 7th stage, it becomes your action. Creed, Kriya. Maybe creed is actually for a code of action. It would be interesting to do that etymology. The 8th stage is called unnati, which means dignity or elevation. So your deeds are good deeds, make you a very dignified person. So you don't behave in a base way. The 9th is buddhi, intellect. So people think that intellect comes from books and study. Intellect doesn't really come from there. Facts come from there. Information comes from books. Information can lead to intellect. But actually, the way that this is describing intellect develops is it starts with shraddha. It starts with feeling of empathy. It starts with caring. By feeling empathy, then you feel friendly. Friendliness leads to intelligence. Care leads to intelligence. Friendliness leads to intelligence. The desire to please, the desire to nourish, the desire to help, the desire for the well-being of others brings actual right action, kriya, dignity, unnati, and buddhi, intellect. And then when intellect becomes deep, it comes to be the 10th daughter, who's called Medha, which is wisdom. I think this would be a good name for a rapper. Female rapper, modern, would be Buddhi. That would be really funny, right? Because it's definitely a female name. Medha. Medha is just intense wisdom, intense intellect. Or you could say it's intellect which is educated. Then you have the final three qualities, which is Titiksha, Hri, and Murti. The 11th quality is Titiksha, which means you are very patient. The 12th quality is Hri. I'm going over these faster because these are less relevant to people. It's more relevant to focus on the first 3 or 4 or 5 stages. And probably because it's less relevant, I have less to say about it because I don't understand it as much. Titiksha is patience. Hri is modesty. This is an interesting thing. Morality isn't flamboyant. This one trademark of morality is it's not flamboyant. It's quite simple, actually, and it likes to work undercover. It doesn't really promote itself at all. That's the quality of Hri. Hri means shyness or modesty. And then the 13th quality, the final quality, very interesting, the final quality of morality. I bet you have no idea what it is. I bet you're going to say some very philosophical stuff about what the final quality of morality is. And you'll never guess what the Bhagavatam says it is. Murti, which means beauty. Actual beauty, visible beauty. It's the quality, it's the result of morality. And you're going to, each one of these qualities includes all the previous ones. It's built on the previous ones. So actually the definition of beauty is to possess the 12 qualities of morality. The definition of beauty is modesty, patience, wisdom, intellect, dignity, good action, being nourishing and satisfying, being peaceful towards your own desires, being compassionate to others, being friendly, and having empathy for others. That's the definition of beauty. It's not the symmetry between your left eyebrow and your right eyebrow. However, the karma that will result from these 12 qualities will produce physical symmetry and stuff like that. Okay, so those are the first 13 daughters. They all married Dharma. Now, what about the remaining 3? These are daughters of Prasuti and Daksha. The remaining 3 daughters are Swaha, very, very, very famous. Every Vedic sacrifice, you hear this name all the time, Swaha. Swaha is number 14. Svadha, which is the 15th. And Sati, the 16th. So who did they marry? Who do you think Swaha married? You can actually guess it if you got some really lucky intellect, really lucky intuition. You might guess because of when do you say Swaha? Like when you're about to throw the rice into the fire. So Swaha married Agni. Good, Christopher. And I believe there's a very, very tragic or compelling story about this. And then at some point we'll hear it. It might be in my 27 Stars, 27 Gods book. Look it up there. Look up Kritika. You could learn more about Swaha. Anyway, she did wind up marrying Agni. She loved Agni. She was in love with Agni, but Agni was, I think, in love with somebody else. But she did manage to marry him. Anyway, Swaha means self-sacrifice. Swa is the self, and Aha means to give. So when you say Swaha, that's when you're giving something to the fire. And the little thing that you're giving into the fire is this token of yourself. Or at least your Shakti, your energy, your resources. Now, this is the 14th daughter. This is not a quality of morality per se anymore, but now this is a quality of sattva, purity. So, which is kind of encompasses dharma as well. So one quality of purity is to be self-sacrificing, swaha. Peter must know who's Dharma and who's Yamaraj. You'll hear all about them in the Bhagavatam. They're different people, however. However, the fact is that some people share names, like somebody down the road could be named John, and somebody on the other side of the street could also be named John. So you could, if somebody is very dharmic, you can call them Yamaraj or Dharmaraj. You could call the dharmic person Yamaraj because the Dharma enforces law, but they're actually separate people. And if you want to know more about that, 27 stars, 27 gods, look at the chapter on Bharani. Did it end badly, the marriage of Swaha and Agni? No, I think it's good. Although Agni is a bit of a... Agni is a very interesting character. Agni Agni is maybe transgendered, I don't know. He's able to become pregnant. And he kind of loves a lot of people. He's very passionate. So let's see how that goes. We'll keep our eyes out for more information about the marriage of Swaha and Agni. Then this 15th daughter is Swadha, very similar to Swaha, right? Swadha means to give yourself, or it means to control yourself, to hold yourself. Now, Vedic pantheon of divinity is basically divided into two groups. Now, we're not talking about Sura and Asura. We're talking about, of the divinities, there's two groups. There's Pitri and Deva. And Pitris are, and the reason why they're put into two groups is because they're worshipped differently. The rituals that you do for the gods are different than the rituals that you do for the ancestors. So the Swaha, the word Swaha is used in yagyas for the gods. The word Swadha is used in offerings to the ancestors. So Swadha married Pitri, the god of the ancestors. But pretty much she's the same as her sister. Then the final daughter is Sati. Sati means virtue. So again, she's like the culmination of all of these qualities. She's the youngest daughter, which is also very interesting. Sati, the most virtuous daughter, marries Bhava. Does anybody know who Bhava is? I'm sure you know because you know who Sati is. Bhava is Shiva, or Rudra, the destroyer. Why is he called Bhava? Because Bhava means something which exists. And Bhava is associated with Bhuta. And people think that means that Shiva is surrounded by ghosts, and of course he is. But the connotation of Bhava Bhuta means something which has been created. And Bhava means something which exists. So Shiva is different from other gods and other beings. Other gods and other beings come into being by their karma at a certain point in time. But that's not Shiva. Shiva is situated eternally in his pure, true identity. It's not a product of karma. So he's called Bhava. So she was not attracted to anybody except him. So she wanted to marry Bhava. Christopher Burns says, as time is cyclic and Pitris are ancestral, could Devas be associated with far-off descendants? Yeah, I mean, eventually everything gets mixed up. But the way that you deal with the present moment And in the present moment, the devas and the pitris are different. So you actually access them differently. This technology is completely lost in Kali Yuga. We don't know how to access either one. But with Vedic technology, the way you access the devas is by certain types of rituals involving certain types of substances, and the way you access the pitris is different. Now, let me tell you the next story, which is the story of Nara-Narayana. This is an important avatar who is a part of this genealogy that we're talking about right now. Now, and here's more interesting stuff too. Of the 13 daughters, now we're going to lead up to Nara-Narayan's birth. Of the 13 daughters, this is a strangely written sentence. Does the sentence make sense to you? Of the 13 daughters, Prasuti wed to Dharma. Yeah, that means like out of these 13 girls that the mom, Prasuti, married to Dharma. I'm going to rewrite that sentence. Each gave their husband a child. So there's one child per wife. Not really. You can actually, but not through these sacrifices. Each one of the 13 wives gave Dharma a child. And now the children are really interesting. So I'm going to use the English words. Faith, which is Shraddha, gave birth to auspiciousness, Shubha. Friendship gave birth to favor, Prasad. Think about this. Friendship gave birth to favor. Compassion gave birth to fearlessness, Abhaya. Calm gave birth to happiness, Sukha. Satisfaction gave birth to joy. Satisfaction is peace, Shanti. Gave birth to joy, Muda. What they're telling you now is, if you develop this quality of Dharma, then you'll get this result. That's why they named the children like this. So, for example, if you develop Shraddha, the result is Shubha. Your future is good. Things will go well for you. If you develop Maitri, which means a feeling of friendliness with everybody, then you're going to become favor. You're going to be giving favor. You'll become favored by everybody. You'll be the favorite of people. People love a friend. And you'll be treating people favorably. So you'll be called prasad, favor. If you develop compassion, then you become fearless. That's very interesting. Abhaya, because you stop worrying about yourself. Calm gives birth to happiness. Satisfaction gives birth to joy. Nourishment gives birth to eagerness. That's interesting. Nourishment, pusha, gives birth to eagerness, which is smaya, which is like lust. So this shows the importance of being healthy in order to enjoy the body. To enjoy the world, you can't do so when you're tired, when you're sick, when you're unhealthy. So pusha gives birth to smaya. Right action, which is kriya, gives birth to yoga. Yoga is the epitome of right action. Dignity gave birth to praiseworthiness. So unnati gives birth to darpa. Darpa is a mirror. So darpa means worthy to be looked at. Praiseworthiness. It's the real attractive thing is dignity. Intellect gives birth to meaning, artha. When you have buddhi or intellect, then you find meaning in things. You understand what things mean. Wisdom or medha gives birth to memory, smriti. That's the difference between, that's why I said before that medha is like an educated intellect. Because with medha, you're remembering instructions. Intellect means you understand meaning. Medha means you can remember the instructions. You can remember the advice. You can remember the lesson. So it gives birth to memory or smriti. Patience gives birth to forgiveness. Modesty gives birth to respect. So if you're wondering why you or me or everybody, or just me, is always disrespectful, it's probably from a lack of modesty. Beauty, which is the summary of all good qualities. Beauty is the summary of all good qualities. Gives birth to two kids, twins. Nara-Narayan. Nara-Narayan. Nara means human, and Narayana means Vishnu. So it's the Jiva and the Atma and the Paramatma in a pair appearing together as an avatar. So now they're going to tell you about Nara-Narayana. And I'm sorry for constantly mispronouncing this. Somehow, some words have become English to me. It's not really Nara-Narayana, it's Nara-Narayana. Everything was supremely auspicious when Nara-Narayana was born. That's your astrological summary. Everything was supremely auspicious. In space, in the wind, in the waters, and on the land, everything became happy, carefree, and pleasant. So you see, the way we do astrology now is only space. We don't care about the lower atmosphere omens, and we don't care about the earthly omens. Thank you for the computers. Everybody's like, oh, the computers has helped astrology so much. Actually, the computers wound up erasing 2/3 of the information that astrologers used to have. Everything became happy, carefree, and pleasant. Music vibrated through the heavens, and flowers fell like rain. This is great. And if you ever come to Japan in March, you'll see what they mean. You get these flowers flying through the sky all the time. Satisfied sages chanted auspicious mantras. Gandharvas and kinnaras sang, and celestial women danced. Brahma and all the gods offered congratulations and prayers. They said, today, the Supreme Person has appeared as a sage in the family of Dharma. He is the one who creates this world from the mystic power within his own self. The world is like a cloud, and he is like the sky. You see, this is a nice analogy, how the sky creates the clouds from its own components. He is the ultimate object of all the hypotheses we host of gods. He's the ultimate object of all the hypotheses of we hosts of gods and spiritualists. All the philosophy is ultimately aiming to understand him. He has come here to cure the ills which disturb this creation by his abundantly merciful glance, which is more auspicious than even the spotless lotus in which the god of auspiciousness dwells. While worshipping and praising the all-attractive, the gods obtained that merciful glance. Nara-Narayana then departed for the intoxicatingly fragrant Mount Gandhamadana. Gandhamadana means intoxicatingly fragrant. Those two sages, Nara and Narayana, are certainly fragments of the all-attractive Hari. They have now appeared as the two Krishnas, Yadu Krishna and Kudu Krishna. Yadu Krishna is Krishna, the Dwarka Devaki Nandan Krishna of the Yadus, and Kudu Krishna is Arjun. And they continue to relieve the burdens of the ill. So Nara-Narayana is the same Paramatma Atma pair, which is the same pair that you see in Krishna and Arjun. That's it. So that's the full story at this point. But later in this fourth division, you'll hear the full story of Nara-Narayana. What happens after they went to this mountain? What did they do at this mountain? Why did they go to this mountain? They went to the mountain because they're sages, so they're going to go into some place where they can do their meditation really peacefully. And they're really outstanding sages. Their mother is beauty. So they're incredibly beautiful. They're born from beauty. Beauty is a summary of all the good qualities of morality. They have all these good qualities. So they're not going to be attracted to anything inferior, and that's the basic Leela that you're going to hear about later on. All right, now, I feel like we just get started. So I might try to just end the chapter. Prasuti also has grandchildren. So those are Prasuti's grandchildren through the 13 daughters who married Dharma, which includes Nara-Narayana. So she had 14, actually, and one of them is Vishnu. Then She also has children through Swaha, who's married to Agni, right? Prasuti's daughter Swaha married Agni. Together they produced 3 children from their pride. They named the boys Pavaka, Pavamana, and Shuchi, and gave them the task of consuming the offerings sacrificed into fire. So here's the meaning. Swaha, which means self-sacrifice, represents the sacrificial offering, the thing that you're putting into the fire. Her marriage to Agni, fire, represents giving the offering to the fire. The 3 children represent what the fire proudly does to any offering given to it. Anything you put in fire, the fire is going to display its quality on the thing. So first thing that fire is going to do is show that it's Pavaka, which is the name of the first child. Pavaka means bright and clean or pure. So fire is going to flare up when you put the offering in it. It flares up. So the first thing that the fire does when the offering is put in is Pavaka. It flares up. Then Pavamana, which means that it purifies the thing, which means that it actually destroys the thing because it's composed of something unreal. This is some unreal or temporary or some result of karma. So it destroys the thing by purifying it. When it destroys the impurity, the only thing that's left is the energetic essence of the thing. So the energy of the thing is released. And that state, the energetic purity in the thing that's given into the fire is called Shuchi, the third child's name. Okay, so those are the 3 primary fire gods that are the 3 stages of burning something in an offering. These 3 boys fathered 45 other forms of fire. Vedic culture is very fire-centric. So you know how like the Alaskan Eskimos, I've always heard since I was a kid, they have like some 24 names for different shades of white. Well, Vedic people have like about 4 names for fire. It's differentiating all these different types of fire. And here's these 3 boys fathered 45 other forms of fire, thus including their 3 fathers and their grandfather. There are 49 types of fire, and it's very, very specific. Like you'll keep a certain kind of a flame for lighting your cooking thing, and another kind of flame for lighting your candles that light up your house, and another kind of flame you keep burning for the sacrifices that you performed, and you keep all these different kinds of flames. When the spiritualists put offering into fire during a Vedic sacrifice, they utilize these sacred fires by invoking their names. Now, we'll talk about the 15th daughter, Prasuti's grandchildren through Swadha. I'll get to your question in a second. Prasuti's daughter Swadha married the ancestral Pitri, who takes many forms. In the form of Agnisattva and Ajapa, the ancestral Pitri accept offerings through a sacred fire. So there's 2 forms Pitris take where you can access them through fire. Agnisattva, which means they're connected with Agni, fire, and Ajapa, they'll accept butter. In the forms of Barhishada and Somya, the ancestral Pitri accept offerings without sacred fire. You can worship the Pitris without fire through Soma and Barhisha, which is grass. From all these Pitri, so those are the four basic forms of the Pitri. From all these Pitris, self-controlled, self-sustaining, and self-giving Swadha conceived 2 daughters who were expert spiritualists, full of supreme knowledge and realization. She named the daughters Vayuna and Dharani. Vayuna, it means the goal of wisdom, and Dharani means the upholder. Dharani is Bu, the goddess of earth. So just going quickly through this information, this is like summary of vast contents of ancillary Vedic culture. Now finally, the 16th daughter is Sati. What children did she have? Of his wife, Sati was perfectly devoted to her divine husband, but her father hated that faultless god. So Sati's father, Daksha, hated her husband, even though her husband was faultless. And she was totally in love with him, but her father hated him. This made Sati so disgusted that she destroyed her own body by her yogic powers. She committed suicide because her body was connected to her father, who hated her husband. Thus, the marriage ended before it could reach maturity, and Sati could not give Bhava a child with the excellent qualities that she possessed. Well, that's a bummer. That is a real bummer. But this is the segue into the story that's we're going to be looking at for the next dozen chapters. The story of Sati and Shiva, Parvati and Shiva. So Vidura is going to say, wow, what? That doesn't happen so often. Tell me more about this. So you'll hear all the details about this. It's one of the most interesting stories in the whole Puranas. I'm not sure if Sati is Mula Nakshatra related. So I'm sure you have questions about what's going on with Sati and Bhava and why she committed suicide and what were the situations, what happened next, etc., etc. But don't worry, you're going to get 12 chapters or so dedicated to explaining all that stuff. Let's see what else. Thanks, Holly. Melissa, could we read into this section also a description of the gunas? I don't know. You have to explain that in more detail. And then I have an off-topic question from Flatlander. When we came into the material world, stop right there. What do you mean when we came into the material world? Right eye twitching. You know what that means? Right eye twitching is good. When we came into the material world, is just a race that you already are wrong. You got the wrong point of view. Nobody came anywhere from someplace else, and it's not a when incident. Let's see what the rest of the question is. When we came into the material world, was that a very selfish act in the first place? It actually isn't an act. You're not coming into the material world from someplace else. But yes, it's selfish in its fundamental nature. The fundamental nature of the jiva is not to look at another living entity, but rather to look at the external product of the living entity. That's the fundamental nature of we who exist in samsara. Our nature is not to look at Bhagavan, another living conscious being, but just to look at the external product of Bhagavan, which is Prakriti. And when you look at another living entity, you don't feel selfish. You get Shraddha, Maitri, Daya, and all that stuff. When you look at an object, you feel selfish. That's an object. I'm an entity. I can use this object. So the fundamental nature of the living entity who is in contact with matter is selfish. So let's see. I have an off-topic question. When we came into this material world, was that a very selfish act in the first place? So if you edit this sentence like crazy so that it just says, Are we fundamentally selfish? Then the answer is yes. We took it upon ourselves to husband the material, to be husband to matter. Do we have the right to do that? You do have the right to do that. It's just not a very smart idea. It's just not a very good idea. It's a very superficial way of living. All right. Is there any other big question here? What is it about fire that the details are important? It's because fire is, how what is it about fire? Ask yourself our whole conversation is running on fire right now. The electricity is one of the forms of fire. So fire is actually energy, and energy is the basis for any kind of technology. So these days, it's the electrical form of fire that we're just using. And if you say, what is the importance of electricity? Just look around. So in the old days, it was fire, not electricity. Or maybe it was electricity. I don't remember it. But the reason why fire is very important in Vedic culture is because their technology is based on it. Alf wants me to take my time. Remember I said, well, I'm going quickly over this stuff with summarizes. I can't because I'm not an expert in all these things. You'd have to find somebody who's a ritualist to explain all this stuff to you about 45 different forms of fire and all that stuff. Melissa, all these daughters are sattva. All the 16 daughters are qualities of sattva. That lust that Pusha gives birth to is actually also a form of sattva. Pardo, I don't understand that question. Diksha, I'm going to publish this. When I do, you'll get it more in a written form. All right, guys. So that's it for today, our Thursday. And I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, yeah. So tomorrow we're going to start the story of Shiva and Sati. This is like the prelude to this major story the Bhagavatam wants to tell. So really look forward to that. We'll start it up tomorrow and see. This is a great story that is mostly drama, but it has some really incredible philosophical, social, and spiritual points woven into the drama. It's really good. And it's like epic fantasy too. Like really good stuff. Like monsters, dragons, devils, demons, all kinds of cool stuff. Magic spells. So I'll see you tomorrow.